Peace and blessings. It's the one and only Ray Imperial Flame Kennels. And we're here with a quick video. And the subject matter is wound care, right? Real-time wound care. The other day, a couple of days ago actually, Fat and Reyna got into it. Reyna left a puncture wound on the top of Fat's head there, right? And she also got up underneath her chin in the neck area. So we see what she was going for, right? But she got in under there and she left a pretty good scratch there. What I didn't know at the time was that it was more than a scratch. So although I cleaned up the scratch and kind of went about business as usual, I didn't realize that Reyna had actually punctured. And right there between my index finger and my thumb, you'll see where the puncture actually was. And then you'll see right here was the other side of that puncture wound, right? So while it didn't get deep, it wasn't serious, because I didn't treat the puncture wound and I only treated the scratch. The whole thing scabbed over, and then as a result, a couple of days later, I'm looking at this mass, this lump of flesh here, indicating an infection, right? So that infection means that somehow we've got to get in there and begin to drain the pus and the liquid that's in there. So the first thing we did was to remove the scab, right? You get a hot rag, you get a rag and some hot water. You don't need hydrogen peroxide and all of these other fancy medications and all of this other stuff. Hot water and a rag will do, right? And you use that rag to slowly, hot rag to slowly remove the scab, right, along the scratch, and then definitely the scab that is over the puncture wound that we missed earlier, right? So now, what I tend to do is to allow this to drain, right? I try to squeeze it a little bit and get as much of that out of there as humanly possible. As you can see, it can be a little uncomfortable for the dog, but it's the best thing for the dog. Doesn't hurt to really open that thing up. You really want it to drain. Most importantly, you do not want to apply ointments. You don't want to bandage this thing, because the idea is to let it drain, right? As it drains, you should see the swelling going down. The swelling has gone down quite a bit already. And so we're just making sure that we got it all. In addition to that, you want to go ahead and get you some antibiotics, right? If you don't have them already, obviously you got to take your dog to the vet to get them. Me personally, I try to keep a little bit of this stuff on hand from time to time. So again, real-time wound care, a rag and hot water, gang. If you want to use a little soap, that's fine as well, but not too much, right? You don't need hydrogen peroxide. In fact, that's actually counterproductive. And once you've got it to the point where you can see the puncture wound and you can see stuff draining from there, right? That's what you want. You want to get it to that point, and you want to leave it at that point until it completely drains. You can apply your antibiotics. This is cephalexin. I want to say right. Cephalexin 500 milligrams per capsule. You're going to give 2 capsules twice a day until you see the swelling go down. So While this is not really serious, this doesn't require stitches, it doesn't require any of that kind of stuff. It's always important after your dogs have kind of gotten into it to examine the dog super thoroughly. Bad dad on me that I did not really look to see that the scratch was more than a scratch, and so as a result we ended up with a little infection there. So in treating, the important thing to do is to treat that infection and make sure that it doesn't get any worse, that the swelling doesn't get larger, and that it is open and draining, right? And we do that with simple tools, a rag and some hot water. Apply a little pressure so that it begins to drain, and she should be fine, right? Leave the wound open. Don't bandage it. Do not apply hydrogen peroxide, and do not apply any ointments, right? Because you want the wound to remain open. It'll heal on it'll begin to heal on its own, but for the most part, as long as it needs to drain, you need it to remain open, right? And then you can go ahead and apply your antibiotics, and you'll see that there's not so much of the sort of pus kind of stuff coming out. You'll see that begins to get clear, and again, the swelling will go down, and the scar will begin to heal up on its own. At that point, you know it's safe to go ahead and apply your ointments. All right, this has been real-time wound care with Ray Imperial of Imperial Flame Kennels. And remember, in a cold world, keep the heat.